Welcome back to No Cap SEC. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of No Cap SEC. Like to welcome to the show our good friend from Unfair Sports, Mr. Eric Cooper. What's up, my friend? How you doing?
Man, doing good. It's we were really excited at the beginning of the week. We were going to start doing a bunch of videos, just things you want to look for, and start out with the offensive line. So I mean, you got a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. The weather seems to be lightening up just a little bit, and then obviously with the announcement, they're going to move to 2:30. What is there not to be excited about right now?
Hey, man, I've been saying that a lot. When it comes to Oklahoma football, I know everybody's, even on the outside of OU football, they're excited thinking OU's down, but we're excited knowing kind of what's about to really happen. And with the spring game and everything, I see a lot of good things headed in that direction. Coop, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight, though, on this show for, this has been our SEC show, and I feel like you'd be a good guy to talk to about this. I hadn't thought a ton about this until the last couple of days, but the SEC making this rule that for this window, no going after SEC players. So, yeah. I mean, you can enter the portal, but you can't go to another SEC school, which kind of limits the number of players that are going to leave, right, from an SEC school if you're already at one. And then, it makes it feel like, they're just there to poach from the other three Power 4 schools. It feels like this was done intentionally by the SEC, you think?
If we're talking about the Big 12 doing it, then I would be like, no, they were just trying to protect themselves, and this was like a fortunate side effect. But no, this was Greg Sankey, and this is the SEC. And I kid you not, you could hold up the banner of, we just don't want to, weaken our own conference. But, the reciprocal of that is you're taking the top ones from everywhere else. And, when we were talking backstage, I made the comment that, even if you're not taking prime starters off of Big Ten teams, but you're taking like guys who maybe were quality depth. And if you're part of the drinking game, you can take a sip, but you're making those teams brittle. So, I mean, look at Colorado last year. Colorado looked like they were going to surprise the hell out of everybody. Every single content creator was buying Colorado stuff and watching Colorado. And then 5 games in, you're like, oh,
well, they're the business.
Yeah. They're breaking down, and that's how it's going to be, is because, are you going to make it through the Big Ten? Sure you are. But instead of having, pretty decent second string, you've got, hopes and prayers and, maybe like a freshman walk-on or, maybe a lower school transfer.
Yeah, look, and I mean, I was on with David on David Talks Buffs a little bit earlier tonight, and we were talking a lot about what's kind of going on there at Colorado. And, for the second straight year, they really are. I mean, you see what he's trying to do. You had to turn around a 111 program. They get to 4 wins. But what happens is you do make it more brutal. I think brittle is a good word for that because of the fact that you're not building, a solid foundation under this thing. And there clearly wasn't a very solid foundation when he got there, when they're 1-11 and then, I mean, obviously you need to change out the parts. I get that. But again, I think that the SEC, this is a good, in the Big Ten too, they're in a position where they can afford to kind of sit back because at this point they're making the money. They have the biggest visibility between their 2 television contracts, which makes them, if it wasn't to go and try to win a championship, your visibility of just being in there, it's a lot of the reason that I felt like it would have been kind of smart for Ollie Gordon to leave Oklahoma State. Whether he went to Oklahoma or not, I surprised that he's staying at OSU. Just because of the simple fact that you raise your level of visibility, you raise your opportunity to play in front of the most people and kind of raise your stock. If you can have a 1,700 yard season again in the SEC or the Big Ten, now you just become a surefire first rounder, right? That's just kind of where I'm at on it. I feel like this is a situation where now you just saw Jaden Rashada goes into the portal. 5-star quarterback out of Arizona State. He gets a little bit of playing time last year, playing for a good offensive mind, but don't you figure he's probably on some wish lists? I mean, I could think Jeff Lebby might want a guy like that, in the SEC. I mean, or Auburn. We wouldn't want a 5-star guy that can throw the ball when you don't really have a guy that can throw it at all.
Or, I mean, even Florida to make amends for the first go round. Maybe they say, hey, listen, no.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not.
But that's a good thought. The professor might think that's fun.
You're correct. I mean, with Ollie Gordon, I mean, maybe he says, hey, listen, I mean, let's be honest. If you're a running back, like, do you really want to give? I mean, 100% another year? You're coming back. He's going to have to just play his backside off. Whereas if he transferred to Ole Miss or Mississippi State or something like that, LSU, any of those teams would have taken him. And I promise you, sure, he has to throw out 1,000 or 1,100 yards this year. And, every once in a while, let the other guy take a couple snaps, and he's going to still be drafted, at the same place as he is if he, does 400 plus carries and, has to run for 1,800 yards to get noticed in the Big 12.
Right. I get it. Well, and it's just another, if you're watching what's been going on at all with any of this stuff, which we all are, because, we're starved for football content anyway. This realignment stuff is shaky. The ACC looks like it's shakier every day. You've got basically two programs that are, and I don't know how real Clemson is at this point. It looks like Florida State is serious about what they're doing. And Clemson's trying to get out. So I know that, but the way that Dabo's moving around, it's weird. He's not going to play the portal anyway. How surprised would you be if their better players started leaving too? Because of the fact that, look, you just don't know what's going to happen. And then, you've got, it's clear that everything that the Big Ten and the SEC are doing is to make it easier for themselves. So do you put it past that they wouldn't try to scoop up every major player in the country at a non-Power 2 school? I mean, I don't.
If you are, at Clemson, eventually you're going to start hearing some of the stuff that's happening in the SEC or the Big Ten. I mean, these players talk to each other. They have conversations. They follow each other. They run into each other during awards ceremony. So you hear everything. And so why would you sit there and stay at Clemson and, be a star player and, just not really know what the future of that program is going to actually be? Because let's be honest. I mean, they haven't tanked yet by no means, but I mean, they're not up where they were. They thought they were like on the verge of becoming a blue blood. And now that program's not that way. And I think the players are going to start seeing it. You're going to start seeing it in some of the recruiting. And because, they're not getting noticed. They're not being seen, the same as, like Oklahoma getting moved to Friday night. The SEC was like, no, we can't do another little 11 a.m. game for the Sooners. Like, let's put them on the spotlight. The SEC is going to do that. It's going to put visibility on you. I mean, I guess if Clemson got put on a Friday night, would people see it as a slap in the face? Because it's like, yeah, they're on that program's on the decline. Now they're playing, Thursday is going to be coming up next.
Yeah, look, to me, and we've kind of been saying this a lot anyways, is when you start talking about what Dabo is and isn't. And I mean, as Sooner creators, I mean, we know that this is where Brent Venables came from, but they couldn't be more different when it comes to the way that you're playing the portal and playing the NIL game. You just couldn't be more different. Hey, thanks a lot for that, Moosehead. We appreciate that. Nice of you to say. Listen, I feel like this is, I mean, the writing is definitely on the wall. And rather than, to me, the other thing that you saw was the Big 12 and the ACC cave on the, you know, the split on the 26, you know, edition. Once they switch it in the CFP on the money split. Look, the money split was already so much different just from your television contracts that they have. They were already $30-40 million behind to start with. Now you're going to go 10 million more behind in the CFP split. How can you keep up? How can you keep up?
And the piece that people aren't remembering is like the SEC is going to renegotiate again before the ACC does. The Big Ten will already negotiate again, so they're going to fall like exponentially behind when these two conferences renegotiate. And so you can't tell me that right now this fire's going. It kind of feels like when we heard finally OU and Texas are leaving for the SEC, like we knew the date.
USC and UCLA jump.
Yeah, well, for OU and for OU fans and for people, you know, for the Big 12, like we kind of knew the date. We thought it was going to be a little sooner, but it went one more year. But we knew that in 24, I mean, we weren't making all the way to 25, and so, but we kind of had a date in mind with that. And with the ACC, it's like it's that inevitable. Like you knew OU and Texas were definitely going to the SEC. It was inevitable, and so you see the Florida State and Clemson stuff, and you're like, the crumbling of this. There's no way in hell it lasts. Was it 2036 or what is the end of their grant rights?
2036, but I think there's some stuff that's going on with ACC that it could come apart at any time. I think if this all
that's what I'm saying.
ESPN can decide not to renew their television contract part after after the 26th season. So the whole conference is teetering on the edge of not being a thing anyway, which is probably a good thing if you're in the ACC, because the only hope that you possibly have is either somehow, I don't know why they haven't tried to do this already, but merging with the Big 12 in some way.
You're going to have to.
Right. Because otherwise, and then, you know, obviously Clemson, Carolina, Miami, and Florida State more than likely would go to one of the other two conferences, the big conferences, you know, Big 12 or Big 10 or SEC.
At that point, I mean,
not any of them. I don't know.
You're going to have teams like Virginia Tech, which is essentially Texas Tech or Oregon State. Like they have relevancy to some sort, but I mean, since Frank Beamer's been gone, they've been, I mean, the last few years of Frank weren't terrific, but I mean, Beamer had them.
Mario,
they were a top
that was decent, and then it was pretty much it, right?
Well, what I'm saying is like they were kind of like how Clemson is right now. They never reached the pinnacle of the national championship wins. You know, Vic took them, and then obviously they were always right there with Beamer. They were always at the top of that conference, and so you know, you're going to have teams like that because I mean, it's you know, do they go over to the Big 12? You know, just be like, please take us. Is that kind of the situation, or do they play hardball like, you know, Arizona and stuff like that? Because I mean, that should have happened a long, long time ago. I mean, how long ago was it that we were hours away from OU joining the Pac-12? I mean, hours.
For 12 years, for 10 years, at least 10 years. Once the Longhorn Network thing came up, I mean, well, you saw you jump and ship Colorado, Nebraska, Missouri, A&M, you know, they were gone. And then you could tell that when they didn't immediately replace all of them, right? They left it too short of being 12 and they put them in that position. You know, the year that that you had Baylor and TCU tie and didn't get in the playoff because they didn't play a championship game, and you thought, oh shit. And that's when that thing was about to rock over. The only thing that kept it from going down, that one, was because the Longhorn Network. They were not going to let them do that in the Pac-12, and so Texas kind of nixed it. But they do a lot of that, you know. I think what motivated Dedicated is saying here, funny thing about what the portal is when these players leave Georgia and you never hear anything about them again. Right. Not necessarily just the Georgia thing, but here's the thing. How many of these kids that are leaving Georgia, right, or they're leaving an SEC school at all, and particularly like in this portal where they can't go to another SEC school, okay? So they're basically giving up and saying, okay, well, maybe, I mean, this is the one thing. These are those kind of kids that aren't playing anyway. They're going to end up going to Big 12 schools or an ACC school possibly because they get a start. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but that means the better talent is moving the other way. You're not going to get – how many 5-stars are you going to get leaving an SEC school knowing, at least at this point right now, knowing that you can't – you're not going to go to another SEC school. Yeah. Which it drops your visibility. It just drops your visibility. There's no two ways around it.
And most, I mean, let's just be honest, the most fertile recruiting grounds is the SEC territory. And so it's not like these kids who've grown up in Georgia or Florida or Mississippi or Alabama are all of a sudden enamored, to be like, I could leave LSU, and if I go to the Big Ten, do I really want to play in Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin? Do I really want to do that, or I'll hang out here? I mean, because you're really not seeing too much insanity in the SEC, and most of the guys that are bouncing, it's. Yeah. I like this rule. We started off about the rule. I mean, it's just so good because, let's think about it. If you're at Ohio State and you're like, I kind of want to go somewhere else. I mean, you've got the whole SEC. You're going to be playing in better weather. You're going to be in the most competitive conference. So yeah, if you're good, that's where you're going to go. Now, if you're not good, you're not going to leave a school like an Iowa or a Wisconsin and then go to an SEC school and then think that you're going to be better than all those athletes. No, you're going to probably, if you're not good, those players are going to filter down to the Big 12, ACC, remnants of the Pac-12 and the
just becoming a minor. Are they going to end up becoming a minor league? That's what I'm getting at. And it kind of feels like that's where this is headed. If you look at what the rankings are concerned, and we could just go through a couple of these guys that have left like a Big 12 program. Obviously, Cormani McLean, 5-star, leaving CU. There's a lot of stuff weird around that. That.
Did you read all those?
I did, and I also have heard some stuff out of there that it sounds like he wasn't really going to class. So I don't know how long he's going to be anywhere if he's not, taking his butt to class. Although I don't know how long that's going to matter.
It's a culture. I mean. It's a culture in your program situation, and because let's just be honest. Do you guys remember? I mean, as a Sooner fan, and so if you're listening in here or you've been around it, like you just cringe all summer and all spring, and you're just like, please God, just nothing happened. And you then finally somebody gets arrested, somebody does something stupid, something like that. And you're just like, why every freaking year, somebody robs and, steals drugs. And you're like, what in the absolute hell is going on? Well, what's going on in Oklahoma for the past 3 years? They're going on mission trips. That, people are getting married. Star players are crossing over and, dating and creating power couples with the softball team. Like, this environment is, it does. I mean, they say it with the soul mission, but they really are developing great men and adults. Right. And so when you have this, like, when Dion is about the camera, and that's what it is. It's about the attention. It's about the attention, and he's trying to create the spotlight on Colorado because it's more attention and it's more attention. And he's got, I think, this year something's got to show this year. You got to think, because how long is that shtick going to work? Like you've gutted your program 2 straight years, and what's changed? Because am I getting tossed next year? Am I showing what's going on? Because their second string guy transferred in. He seems like he had a pretty decent year for a second string running back, and he's transferring out. So he was productive. So, but that's just the Cormani McClain thing. If you're not going to class in this day and age, and that you've got NIL deals and everything, but at the same time, you got to have people around the program that are making sure these kids are doing the stuff, and they need to probably be addressed. We didn't see much. He was a 5-star guy. You thought he was Travis Hunter part 2.
That was what they were billing him as. That's what they were billing him as.
Yeah.
I don't know that it didn't show up on the field for sure. He definitely seemed to struggle kind of since the start. I think, like Motivated said, had a lot of problems. I think being away from home was probably bothering him a little bit. Sooner in Texas, welcome in. Hey, welcome in everybody who's in here. We're happy to see all you guys that we know. Happy to see the ones that we don't. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you please hit that like button. We have 105 people here over the channels that we're on watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Become a subscriber to Hall of Fame College Football and Unfair Sports, where Coop is at as well. We are doing college football content all the time, and we try to talk about a little bit of everything. We have our Sooner channels as well, but we love to talk about a lot of the stuff that goes on around the country. Kind of going back to some of this, you really only see a few SEC guys that are really in and leaving right now. You've got, obviously, in the Oklahoma vein of things, we're hearing stuff about Simeon Barrow Jr., Michigan State defensive tackle. You're hearing stuff out of the TCU defensive tackle. Give me his name again. Dominic, what is his last name? Gosh, I forget his name.
Williams.
Williams, yeah, Dominic Williams. So, there's another, defensive line prospect. And this is again, Oklahoma's building that up, but you could see them going to one of these places, a Georgia or a LSU, which they're in need of defensive linemen. And that's probably one of the things that would keep LSU from really contending this year would be what they do on defense. Obviously, it always starts up front. You've got, let's see, linebackers from everywhere. You got safety out of Houston, offensive tackle out of Houston. See another, a bunch of these guys, interior offensive linemen out of Illinois. These guys, those are the guys that you would be after. So they're going to get their pick of these guys first in the Big Ten, in the SEC. And then, if they don't end up finding a spot, you would think that Cormani McClain is more than likely going to end up in an SEC program. If I could see him maybe ending up at Miami, but why wouldn't Florida? Florida had him first before he flipped to Miami, and then flipped to Colorado. They need help on defense as well.
But at the same time, if your program's holding on for dear life and you add somebody who seems to like attention and doesn't like
about the culture part, but right now that is not what Billy.
But I'm just saying,
Billy don't have time for that shit.
I'm just saying, I don't think, because teams like 6-6 teams never brought Terrell Owens in. It was always like 10-2 teams and stuff like that, because 6-6 teams didn't have the culture, didn't have the locker room stability to bring in or 8-8 teams, didn't have that stability to Chad Ochocinco, Antonio Brown, who's still crazy as, Road Lizard. And, so you can't do that. So, I could see Cormani also doing like a UCF also. I think with that, you still get a chance. You could probably also turn around and play Colorado and prove that they made a mistake.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's always those. It's like I said, that's a team that they're kind of desperate with Billy. He's got to know. And I know he's saying the right things as far as and it looks like they may be a little better. I don't think Graham Mertz was as bad as everybody thought he was anyway. You know, you've got DJ Lagway. I assume that he'll probably be seeing some time no matter what if they don't win immediately right away anyway. So why wouldn't you go and try to get whatever you can, especially with that? Hey man, they've got the toughest schedule probably that I've ever seen. I mean, really just top. I mean, even all their non-conference games are insane. All the Florida schools pretty much they're getting all of them. So, tough for them. You got to see, I can see where you would, you're going to take a shot on that. Why wouldn't you if you're Billy, if not, I'm out of here anyway. What does it matter?
It's crazy. The year that was it 2020 when we played, was it Dane Mullen? And, he made those comments. Like, I think that they were fool's gold that year. But I mean, because that year kind of makes you remember that Florida was good at some point. But I mean, since Meyer left, I mean, they have been on the struggle bus. So let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody's been able to keep it together there.
I don't understand. I just really don't understand because, I mean, Urban Meyer, like maybe he was that good of a coach. I don't know. Like I know that he cheated like hell, but maybe he just was that good of a coach because, I mean, let's be honest. He did it at Utah, and where was he before Utah? Wasn't he at like
Bowling Green, and they were winning too?
Bowling Green. Yeah. So that was it. Because did he? No. Okay, never mind.
Before that, I think he was the OC at Notre Dame for Wasn't he the OC?
So I thought that there was a Notre Dame. I thought there was a tie around, but anyway, regardless, it just shows you, like, because I don't think it was just a mixture of Tim Tebow and a bunch of super talented,
Well, they weren't winning in
jackwagons, and then they haven't won since. So I mean, I'm just saying, I think that I wonder if Urban kicks himself and says, but at the same time, I mean, he let that. It looks like
the way they did was definitely different. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different deal. And look, in the end, I think that. Do I think they'd be smart to fire Billy? I don't. I think that he's recruiting well enough that you need to give him more time than this, and especially with this ridiculous schedule. And he's got a tough one next year too. If they show any kind of improvement, I don't think you can do that. I wouldn't. But that being said, I mean, AD's job is tied to that football coach too. So, there's a lot going on there. You could definitely see them pulling the trigger if they don't see significant improvement. Now, Cormani McClain hanging around, or not Cormani, I'm sorry, DJ Lagway hanging around and wanting him to be there could be helpful for him. But I mean, what's the number that you got to hit? If you got to hit 6-7 wins, yeah, maybe they do that. But if you got to hit 8 or 9, I mean, I struggle. I think they build a statue if he wins 9 on this schedule.
Yeah, that schedule is brutal.
Brutal, right?
And it looks brutal because how weak we know Florida is. Like if it was, I mean, let's be honest. Like Texas hasn't had extreme amount of success here recently, but we all of a sudden, there's a lot of people think that they're going to go in and be super successful, super prepared when they lost every single offensive playmaker almost, and all their different difference makers up front on defense, but nobody's questioning that. Everybody looks at Florida, who's had about the same records here over the past decade, and everybody's like, I mean, they're trash. They're trash, and it's a dumpster fire, and nobody's going to be able to dig it out. And I don't know what it will take, because obviously the NIL isn't making a difference. Is it just that there's the Florida crop has not been terrific? I don't know.
They got a really good receipt. Now they lost. They were in the top 5, and then it turned to top 15 really quick. But if Lagway, I think if this receiver is really good and Lagway gets in there and does anything, or if they do something at all, I don't know. It makes you wonder. But I feel like, I don't know. I don't know that it's who you're going to get. I think that. So what are you going to do? You're going to go get. I mean, would you see Lane leaving for that one? I mean, that would probably be the right job for him to take if he's
he could do it. He could do it because
Yeah.
you need a personality that is going to overshadow that program. Because right now, Napier, what's his name before him? None of those were names at Florida. Like if Lane Kiffin went there, it would be Lane Kiffin, and like that would be
Well,
it.
and he's doing it with less. I mean, let's not get it twisted. They're raiding the portal right now. But how much of that money? That's not an endless drop of money in Iowa.
It's not.
They
won't be able.
They got to win now. If they don't do something with what he's got in this portal class right here, I mean, it's as good as roster wise.
This is his shot. This is his shot.
Right. Correct. And you got Alabama, whatever, if they're down or not down, but you look at it and it's like, okay, you got a good shot here. The tough thing is to get it home.
How often do you see in the NFL you go out and just buy all the top free agents? They come in and their team's like super successful. It's not very often because it's like there's a lot of trust that needs to happen for championship runs. And so that's where I'm just like, oh, look at that. That's awesome. This is my
that's my boy. That's my boy down in Houston, man.
That's my cousin. It's my cousin.
It's your cousin? Yeah,
it's my cousin. So, but I was going to say something about Lagway. Lagway has multiple options because he's also a phenomenal baseball player. So if Florida gets rocky and he's like, let me try the baseball thing, like he's got first round draft talents this year. Like he plays 1 year, he could be gone doing baseball stuff too. So where does he believe? Does he believe that he is, does he believe that he is better fit to be a baseball player or try to do the college football thing? Because let's just be honest. If you try to do it at Florida, or if you're bouncing around in the portal, you're never going to find yourself established. You're never going to be able to develop a culture of your own and really take a team.
Right.
And those guys typically have trouble, moving into the NFL.
No, I agree. I think that's, and the one thing about, I thought he showed a lot of restraint not taking the Auburn job when he could have, because he knew that. Why do you want that one? First off, he would have guaranteed himself never to get the Alabama job. Not that I think he's necessarily going to get it anyway, but you would have seen, oh, well, speaking of Florida, we got a high top Shelton coming in. But talking about guys like that. Hey, what's up, bro?
What's up, Bubba? How are you?
Good, man.
Oh, my,
this is Shelton Walker from High Top Sports, one of our favorite turds. We were just talking about Florida and Billy Ball, and you can tell us why Billy's going to hang around next year.
Oh, here we go.
No, man, I wasn't going to do it like that. I'm busting your balls. You know this.
I innocently would like to hear, because I don't really like listening anything national wise about Florida, but I want to hear like the insiders. Like, what is how does your feeling go this year? Do you feel like you guys are in a culture spot that bringing on maybe like a Cormani McLean, somebody who, really just a little bit of an attention seeker, do you think that you guys are in like a health spot as far as a program to, absorb that?
You think, are you asking me if Florida's going to go after Cormani?
Yeah.
No chance.
You don't think so?
He burned that bridge already?
Yeah, that's the whole way. Again, being part of it, when this whole thing went down, this commit. We have, obviously, we're connected here with a few people, and not everything's always locked. And we're not insiders. I'm not trying to claim like we're some I'm tapped in, but I'm close with people that usually know what's going on, so we're able to get ahead of it and make thumbnails and make articles.
You're tapped in, quit bullshitting and just answer.
You got the office's buzz. You got them bugged. It's all right. We know where the bugs are.
And look, it doesn't always work out. I recall this one being such a lock that one of the Gator guys went to his commit because it was such a lock, and he ended up committing to Miami. It shocked everyone so much that 247, it got me. I went viral for my clip for me reacting. 247 dropped a video showing him committing to Florida because they were just ready to hit the go button. They didn't even watch the commitment. That's how much of a lock it was to Florida. And then I'm playing this video like confused of what just happened.
What?
And then
Yeah.
he ends up going to Miami, and so like that bridge is completely burned on how that all went down. Apparently, USF seems to be in the mix. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
USF.
Yeah,
Well, and that's kind
I
of his
said
hometown, right?
UCF.
It seems weird though that he would do
USF is
that.
what I heard.
Okay. Well, the
Oh.
Could be
hey, listen,
Maybe
it sounds like it's our David Hicks. I mean, that's what it sounds like. But the whispers of things going south. At least the OU insiders had like an hour, and I think McQuestion was like, just down the road. So, man, but it sounds like a David Hicks situation. I mean, we all thought he was a Sooner, and we thought he was recruiting for Oklahoma, and then he goes A&M, and we were like, what the? And people still, this transfer portal period, were like, are we getting David Hicks? And so, yeah, I think that now I still think like most of Sooner people would be like, yeah, let's bring him on. But it sounds like with Florida, they would be like burning hell.
Yeah, and look, the cornerback room, it's in a healthy place. I'm ecstatic to see what they're able to do. There's a lot of talent in that room, and I don't think he would fit into the culture from what they're trying to build. And seeing guys who have left and gone. As for my feeling for what Billy has to do, I know that was kind of the original question. I mean, as a fan, it's Gators by a million. You know what I mean? We ain't going nowhere. But look, I talked with Uncle Lou. He's a big Georgia fan, and again, with it being one of the hardest,
Lou. We're getting advice from Uncle Lou these days.
Uncle Lou's a man. Don't get it twisted. With it being the hardest schedule in college football probably ever, 100% is ever. He was even saying like, look, 7-5, and I think a lot of people are kind of in the sense like 7-5 would be a very healthy direction. And with the talent of DJ Lagway and Elgin McCray, this is where I'm really hanging on to. I want to see those guys stay in a Gator uniform, and I think Billy staying has a lot of play on that. I think you lose Billy, you're going to lose a lot of fun talent that we've been nurturing over the last.
Seems like he's got a pretty good hold on Lagway, right? I mean, because he's got to be the most tampered with guy in the country after the way that he ended the second half of last year, and even after the whole Elite 11 debacle.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's talked about DJ Lagway, that he was, because he really was that good last year.
I don't know if you saw a spring game.
Dynamic talent, man. He's a dynamic talent. I did watch the spring game. Yes.
Arch Manning was a perfect score coming out a couple years ago. 5-star quarterback.
Well, we know why that was.
Yeah, we know, but it's the night and day difference. It's unreal. Like what DJ looked like this spring game, he looked like an up and coming sophomore. Like that's how good he looked, and so that excites the hell out of me. Look, I don't think it doesn't matter how great he plays in this, and Lou made a good point. Like it doesn't really matter. Florida has a lot of things they have to fix. DJ Lagway isn't going to be the fix.
He's not going to save you from all that other shit, right?
But he's the step, though. He can at least give hope and provide a sense of like this guy's really good. Let's get the pieces to go around him. And look, I think they looked better. The spring game looked more organized. It looked more complete than last year. It felt very disorganized and kind of all over the place, and just it felt flat. This felt like an actual game. Like it felt like I was watching a legitimate football game, not a practice. If that makes sense. Last year just felt like an actual scrimmage. And I know it was a scrimmage, but it had more organization and felt good.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, and what we were talking about to start this whole thing off, anyways, it feels like, I mean, the SEC, if they did anybody a favor, it was definitely Florida and some of these teams that can't afford to lose any other players. Because here's the thing: if Florida's going to lose anybody, they're not losing anybody to another SEC team during this one. You're not allowed to eat your own here. They're and I think that if anything, it's really kind of putting the other conferences, the smaller conferences, in a bad position where, and even the Big Ten, you can pull from the Big Ten, but the other two conferences, why would you leave
the SEC?
Why would you leave and to go down to the Big 12 or the ACC, which is starting to feel more and more and more like the minor leagues?
Yeah, I talked about that with when the SEC and the Big Ten came together. They kind of made like a little form of alliance, and I made a video saying this is the first step to it being basically the NFL of college football. I think I called it the college football league. I can't remember what I called it. And the other teams just being a secondary, Division two. We've talked about it before. I'm not a big soccer guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the Premier League and how that works. We have like there's multiple leagues and you've got to
Yeah,
the losing
relegation.
team falls. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was that. I saw an article was written like we've
Yeah, I
talked
saw
about
it
it
too.
with
Yeah.
guys. Yeah. Like the guy we've been talking this for like a year and a half
Yes.
now, where that should how it should flow, where we trim this thing down, and then if you're last place, you move out, which that kind of keeps that competitive edge. And I saw that article, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
It's
a no-brainer, right?
It's amazing because you think of like and I'm just throwing a team out here, but let's go with a Nebraska. Nebraska is in the Premier League or whatever. They keep tanking, and then you have Oregon State, which is rocking the lower level or whatever. Oregon State gets moved up, and Nebraska gets relegated. Now they get a chance to redevelop and build some momentum, build some belief in the program. But even at that level, like, you're going to have, I think that makes the rich richer, because you're going to go to a team that is never going down, because those TV contracts for the down, you got to think that the revenue is going to have to be reflected in TV contracts at that point. And nobody would want to commit to a team that's consistently down.
Well, I think the part of like the Premier League, why it works too, is there's salary caps. So you're not just having the rich get richer necessarily. It's able to be dispersed, and then the talent gap isn't as big as is in college either. And that's something that I keep kind of pounding the drum too with this NIL. I don't know if you saw the new NIL app that was dropped today. Did you see that? Basically, it's acting as an agency. Cody actually on the ball sent it to me, the professor. He was losing his nuts over it. It's like a 6-second video to kind of quick summarize it. Basically, you can go into this app, look at your NIL evaluation, and plug in what you want. So now it's going to be it's an agency portal app is kind of what it was trying to be. So you go in there, plug in what you think you're worth, and now coaches are going to look at that. And now even Cody was even going further of like coaches are going to be in this app communicating. On3 has full control now of all info of what's happening because of this new portal. Is it going to run and do and control everything? That's left to be unknown, but it's definitely a step in a direction it's unorthodox, to say the least.
Right. And motivated, dedicated. I get what you're saying here. You're getting guys that are leaving and now they're the best player in that league. And that's fine. That's going to be okay for a couple of people. But for the guys that are, I mean, if you're not that dude, if you're not going to be able to go and be all world at that level, and as this thing really separates out, because look at this. You got to pay attention to the fact that, again, we talked about the separation in money. That just means that they're going to have more to put into the NIL port to stuff. Anyways, you better get into a situation where you're going into a rev share contract kind of deal that you can hold these kids to. Because if you don't, then you have no chance. You have no chance, because that way the money's slotted. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. You can only make so much money depending on, whatever that, like you're saying with this app and everything. There's a lot of ways that it's going to start getting, it's turning into the NFL, whether anybody wants it to believe it or not, or we can kick and scream like Dabble Sweeney all you want to, but it's not changing. The best thing that you can hope for is that you do get some kind of relief from this. And this is, again, I'm not mad at a single player. I'm going to say that one more time for the record. The players didn't make this freaking mess. They didn't make it.
No, look, I think people get upset about it. It's definitely changed the game a little bit. The portal jumping this is honestly what makes me more upset than anything. It's, look, a big factor of that is the thing that I go back to is what was great about the NIL and where it really originated from was, hey, if your favorite player plays for the Gators, you buy that number and you buy that jersey, that should go back to the player.
He gets part of the revenue. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All these Gator fans bought Trevor Etienne jerseys for Christmas and homeboy dips. It's like, damn, like you're afraid to buy a jersey. And now, you know what I mean? So that's the part that kind of sucks. I mean, you're only going to buy like your 5th year. Grand merch jerseys are going to suck hotcakes. Like the guy's going to be a Gator legend regardless because of what he did last year. I mean,
you
yeah,
heard it
the
here
guy.
first, boys and girls. You heard it here first.
Yeah, we love him. The guy's he's a Gator through and through. That Wisconsin bullshit. That was just a temporary stop. He's a Gator.
That guy.
Prodigal Gator. I like it.
Guy.
Yeah, he smashed his collarbone for us. Like he pulled a full blown Tebow. Like he earned his creds immediately. The way he carries himself, like the Gator fans.
No. Wait.
They adore DJ, but they love we love us. I love me some Graham Mertz anyway. So.
Oh my God, Graham Mertz, he is the dude. Number 1 pick in next year's draft, right before DJ Lagway, gets the job and becomes it. Yeah. Hey, I'll believe that shit when I see it. I took up for him and said that I believe he's definitely better than anybody thought. It wasn't his fault, the games that they lost last year. But what you're saying kind of takes us back to what Coop was kind of stressing earlier, that money's important and being able to pay these kids and all that stuff. But the culture has so much more, I believe, value at this point right now because of the fact of anybody, you can get paid any number of places, and there's going to be some kids that's all that matters. I get that. But if you don't have the culture to hold on to these kids, the money doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter.
I mean, I agree to an extent. I think I think you're always gonna have 1 or 2 guys that's just gonna have to go chase their own situation. And I think, I mean, the money thing, I think playing time and money is becoming more of a factor. I feel like the patience to wait to play was that's something that gets overlooked. We're seeing it with Colorado and guys, going to, leaving Colorado, and everyone's kind of panicking on that. But it's those guys went to Colorado to play, and it looks like they probably weren't going to play, so now they're leaving. Nothing to do with money. It was just simply I want to play, and they're not getting that spot. So it's a combination of both, I think, with the transfer portal.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Coop, what do you got on that?
I'm sorry, I did not pay attention during that part. So
I was just talking about how important you were saying that your culture and what you're doing when you get them there is so much more important now and obviously the money is stupid important, and a lot of kids are leaving for that. But if you're really wanting to move up, I mean, look, you got to have a hell of a culture to keep somebody around at one of these ACC or Big 12 schools, though, because money-wise, you're not going to be able to keep up. And even if you do,
will play a bigger factor in winning than keeping somebody. I don't see somebody saying at Pitt because of culture. Ain't no way. It's going to help because all the money that is flying around, a good solid culture that can overcome that money where there isn't too many egos in a locker room, that's where it's going to take place. I don't think culture keeps a guy locked into a place, but it will keep him locked in when it's fourth quarter and I'm not having an ego because homeboy gets paid more than me. That's where I think the culture comes into play.
Okay.
Yes. But I also say this too, is like with guys like Ollie Gordon will go to the NFL after this year, but let's say that Ollie Gordon had one more year. If he goes out to Oklahoma State, has another really good year, and then had to come back. So let's pretend that last year, he was a freshman. This year he's going to be a sophomore. Ollie Gordon doesn't stay for a third year at Oklahoma State. He's going somewhere else. Like the guy who transferred over to the ACC, same thing is like you would have to be like, if you had a transfer come from a bigger program and you're at the ACC or the Big 12 or, one of the other schools and they're young and then they blow out, you're doing everything in your freaking talent to keep them at your school. And it's just going to be tough. And yeah, you may get a bombshell, but they're going to go right back into the Big 10 or the SEC after they ball out.
I think where the culture does play a factor. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Plays a factor, Jason, is I'm not going to mention any names, but for the basketball team, there's some guys looking into the NFL the NBA draft, and there's conversation of like, hey, if the NBA draft doesn't work out, we'll come back to Florida. And so the NBA draft, that's a money factor. And it's like, look, I love Florida, and if you guys can match what I'm going to make as a second round draft pick, I'll come back. And so that's where the culture plays a factor. Like, I really love it here. I enjoy playing here, but I've got to go take care of my family. Yeah. So what do we want to do? And I think the same thing goes for like if you are transferring in internally with the same SEC program, you're going from Florida to A&M. That is a cultural thing. Both schools are paying the same amount. We're splitting hairs at this point.
Sure.
I disagree with A&M and the smaller schools. Those guys jumping up, that's not a culture issue. That's just they balled out in the smaller schools, and now they're having an opportunity to go make a name for themselves.
There's an opportunity for them, and that's what I'm getting at. Is that there's nothing that you can do to like stop that upward mobility of these guys.
Yeah.
They can go. A guy like Ollie Gordon. I mean, you think about Ollie Gordon. He wasn't. Texas didn't even give him an offer until way late in the game. It pissed him off, so he ended up going to Oklahoma State. It surprises me that he stayed at OSU because of the fact of, I mean, they don't have a very good quarterback. Maybe they're not going to hold it together. There's just no two ways. They have expectations. So even if he goes, he's going to have to go for 2,500 yards. Now he does that, he's definitely going to go in the first round. But I mean, he's got to have a huge year. But it seems like he's the kind of guy that you would have seen move and jump into the portal now. You know, kind of surprised me that this is another guy that but you saw earlier in the portal stuff where you've got your guy from that was, oh come on, Jaden Rashada back in the portal. Where's he going to end up? I can see him going to a place like Mississippi State, Georgia.
Yeah, they did.
Why
They
Georgia?
just I was just doing our Georgia show, High Top Sports Georgia, and that literally broke 10 minutes beforehand that Georgia's leading the pack right now on that. So they don't. So talking with the Georgia guy, they didn't have a 2023 quarterback. So they got two 2022 guys in Gunnar Stockton and Carson Beck, and then Ryan Puglisi, who's a 2024 guy. So there's a gap, and now they got Ryan Montgomery 2025, but obviously they're not even there yet. So you got to think you're going to lose two quarterbacks at once in Carson Beck and Gunnar Stockton. Not at once, because Gunnar Stockton technically could stay next year. But you're probably, at that point, you're going to be three quarterbacks. It's going to be a draw because you're going to have three guys that have never started, and it's going to be anybody's game. And so now you're thin in a way, because if whoever loses that job, and if Gunnar is losing that job in his senior year, he's probably gone. And so now if they do add that Jaden Rashada, they're going to be deep at quarterback more than they are already. So the rich gets richer on that part.
Well,
I don't think Jalen Rashada. I didn't see anything out of him this year that really just blew me away. But
true, but
you surround him with Georgia talent.
Yeah, if you plug in a 4-star talent recruit into he knows going there, he's not going to be the guy. So he's taken a step back on purpose to go be surrounded by talent and to grow. So it's like, look, it's in every
the
talented young player that has the potential to be something. I think it's going to be beneficial. I like it. I think if he does do it, I think it's a great decision. I think, and they were talking about it today, and I've been preaching this forever. The NFL has, I feel like, ruined quarterbacks because they throw them in the fire way too soon. And I think college is getting to that because everyone wants to play right away, and it's not beneficial to do that. So I actually amend Rashada for acknowledging, like, I'm not ready. Let me go hang out at Georgia for maybe a year and a half, maybe even 2, and be developed the proper way so I can play at an SEC talent school.
It's kind of like when Oklahoma took Kyler Murray, to be honest with you, because we didn't know Kyler Murray was going to be Kyler Murray. Like he was about like Jalen Rashada was this year at Arizona State when he had playing time at A&M. Like he didn't show much. He did. He got to come in.
Well, he flashed, but he was definitely mistake prone for sure, right?
Well, and Rashada did too. Rashada had flashes, but he was very mistake prone. And I would say Kyler was probably surrounded by more talent down in A&M, but it worked out for Kyler. So I think that if you can commit yourself and say, let's be honest, what's the last quarterback, Stetson Bennett, nobody when Stetson Bennett walked out on the field the first time, nobody was pounding their chest about Stetson Bennett. But that guy just found the will to win, and he, just kept on going. And Rashada has that chance.
Stetson doesn't count. Stetson's not.
He's just an alien.
Yeah, that guy's nowhere near that. He went to a JUCO school, came back. He was like an 8th year senior. He took the job from 3 4-star quarterbacks. Like that guy doesn't count. He's hit a class of his own. And now he's
held
having his
off,
own issue.
held off Brock Vandegrift. I remember
No,
Vandegrift
it
was
Fromm, and it wasn't even Vandergriff. It was
Jake
he
Fromm.
took the
Is
he
it
took the
Jake
job from Jake
Fromm?
Fromm, and then the other guy, what was his name? He just finished his career at Rice.
Yeah,
Daniels.
JT Daniels,
JT
and then
Daniels.
you
JT
also
Daniels.
had that who was that other kid that the 5-star that he ended up at Washington, and he lost the job to Fromm, right?
Too. I want to see. I
And
want to see
Justin Fields. Justin Fields. Yeah, they have not. The one thing that you can say about Georgia is they haven't had a great track record with
the 5'10" guy weighing a 190.
With the 5-star guys. I mean, go for the 3-star dudes. You're better off. You know.
Yeah, that it's. I mean, imagine Baker Mayfield playing for Georgia. You know, like that. I mean, that was Stetson Bennett. Like he just had that. I mean, that was a guy that you're like, yeah, I can't not like this guy. Like you got to respect just that will to win. He reminds me of like in baseball, like a David Eckstein was a shortstop for the Cardinals. I mean, he was 5'10", nothing, 170 pounds. And there's all these, massive dudes, Albert Pujols, and Eckstein was like the glue of the whole damn team. And I love guys like that.
Yeah. The dude had range,
Yeah.
He was a baller. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's again, just, the reason we came in here to talk about all this anyway was to simply, really talk about how it feels like the SEC and the Big Ten are getting stronger. And yeah, just like that, you got a 5-star quarterback that's back in the portal 1 year after, he was committed to go to Florida, went to Florida and then left for the NIL stuff. But now, I mean, so Georgia's going to take that shot there. That feels like to me that, I mean, obvious tampering, but not that tampering is really a thing anymore. But they were definitely, that was a move that they made. That was a move that they tried to go out there and get somebody because, like you said, they were a little thin. They needed to get somebody in there. I see it. It makes sense. But this is what you're going to see more and more of this. These best guys that you got out there, you're talking about the defensive tackle guys. That you got the kid out of Michigan State, and then the kid out of TCU. These guys are like the leaders of the whole thing. And then the Louisville kid. As far as defensive tackles, those are the guys you got to have. They're not going anywhere but an SEC program. No way.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you saw the Bleedy kid, coming out of Indiana. He gets a whiff that Sooners might go after somebody else. So now he's LSU bound. So I mean, he was either going to try to come to Oklahoma but when he got a sniff, it was over there. But you're going to see it, and it's going to get bigger too because. Tell me this. Do you think that the Big 12 and the ACC are going to sign some kind of nationwide NIL deal before like the SEC and Big 10 does? No, it's not going to happen. So you get this, you get a few more years down the road, and every single one of the schools in the Big 12 are going to start feeling it too. Every single team, school in the ACC. I just don't see how we make it 10 years down the road without super conference or the tiers.
Yeah, that's I mean, 10 years on the road, who knows what's going to happen? I feel like it's changed. It's changing every year now with it. So, I mean, the
difference in 1 year, what it looks like 1 year.
The ACC granted rights would still be going.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
look at the Pac-12 was still a thing in August. It hadn't even been a year yet.
That's weird. Yeah. And we don't even know what that world's like yet because you know what I mean? It's because the other sports are still Pac-12. Like it's weird. It's
and in Oklahoma, we're obeying SEC rules right now, even though we're still playing Big 12.
Shouldn't have. Somebody brought that up in the chat just now. That OU in Texas agreeing to that, not poaching from other SEC schools was stupid.
Because it was because no, I don't believe it because they didn't have to worry. Yeah. They didn't have to worry about, because if we weren't in it, then the SEC could be poaching our players.
It's a double edged sword there. I think I wouldn't try to play that. I would just like commit to it. Once you guys are chanting SEC, well, Texas was because they're the the actual only true blood we're getting from the Big 12. But
he's gone.
They're chanting when they won the Big 12 championship. I know you guys aren't familiar with that either, but they
yeah, you're not familiar with that game that Oklahoma beat Texas in either, right? The Red River game that you lost $50 to me on that one too, and
I didn't lose $50 on that one. No.
Oh no, you lost
Lincoln.
$50 believing in Tebow at USC.
Yeah, that was very frustrating.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the Texas one what was most important. They won the Big 12 championship. They didn't choke against Oklahoma State. But yeah, I lost the Lance or the what's his face out in USC. That guy's a joke. I'm done with Lincoln Riley. That guy's dead to me. He lost me too much money. Not just you either. Yeah, I don't get it. They're trash sticks.
I'm really excited to see what he does this year because they
got better on defense and got worse on defense at the same time, right? I mean, and then I don't understand how you can look. They've lost 2 guys to the portal on the defensive tackle spot. If they don't get one of these guys coming in right away, like those same defensive tackles, what's Bear going to do? They kept him around. He was about to leave too. They bumped up his salary a little more.
I don't think they've got the dollars to play ball for. I mean, they're going to get what meat's left on the bone from these guys.
Well,
they're going to be getting guys from Kennesaw State or some shit like that.
Should be fun. Well, my man Jason, I'm a roll. I appreciate you guys. Shoot me an invite.
Thanks for coming in and meeting up with us. We need to do a full-on preview, but we were talking about in the end of it. I think Florida looks better than people are giving them credit for around the country, because I didn't think they were that bad at the end of the year. They lost 5 in a row, but there was a little things that kept it from being the other way. And some of these teams that you're playing, including Texas, you're getting a break on it because they're not as good as they were last year, and they couldn't get it done then.
That's the best team we're going to play is Texas. I don't disagree with you completely, but I think the other team at Texas A&M.
You're going to be surprised that I'm right again about that. I was right about Tebow last year. I'm right about Texas too. Believe me, they could have done with all those guys that just proved themselves in the combine. They were great combine players. They couldn't get 1 yard against Oklahoma in the Red River game, and they couldn't get a 15, 12 yard, into the end zone when Washington tried to gift them that shit too.
Texas finishes higher than Oklahoma in the SEC.
Oh, you want to throw another bet on that?
You can mark it in your calendar.
All right. Well, how about another hundo on that one?
I'll put 50 on it. That's fine. That's the easy one for me. I'll get my money back.
Sure you will. Welcome to thanks for coming and dropping in on us. Let everybody know how to find you there, Mr. High Top.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me. High Top Sports, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. We do all college football, but obviously I'm a big Gator fan and Horns Up guy. So I don't know. It's gonna be weird being a Horns fan this year because now they're on our side. So it's gonna be weird cheering for them. A lot of people gave me flack about that. So, but yeah, High Top Sports. You guys can come check us out. Motivated, dedicated. He's been there a couple times giving it shit. He's a Georgia fan, so he likes to rile up my fan base every now and then. But
that's the same reason I come and watch your show. I just like to piss everybody off in there, or I do it. It's really funny in Discord. They get fucking pissed. They get pissed.
They're rowdy bunch. Yeah, they're rowdy bunch.
Fun stuff, though, man. Good stuff, brother. Thanks for coming in and joining us, man. We'll talk to you. See you soon.
Hey, man.
Hey, look. Shelton Walker with High Top Sports. Get over there and check them out. You've got a couple of new channels. They got a Georgia channel. They have an Oregon channel, I believe, and they have, I believe, a Colorado channel as well. So they're killing it. But he's fun. He talks a lot of shit because that's what he does. But he's not always right, but he is entertaining. Give him that. He's entertaining. All right.
That's again, I think that he is trolling because again, that's been the thing. I haven't really gone off on it. Like, I'll probably in July and August really tee off, but I'm so confused how the most baffling player on your team, your quarterback, which was not good enough to basically walk through the playoffs. Like, do they beat Michigan?
You're
I
gonna
don't
tell
think
me
so.
so many things have to happen for Texas to be. First off, forget about the fact that they're in the SEC. If they were still in the Big 12 and Oklahoma was in there with them, they still wouldn't have that great of a shot.
No.
And the reason is, look, their 4 best pass catchers, their 4 best receivers, or no, their 3 best receivers, their number 1 tight end, and their number 1 running back gone. Their best 2 defensive players, the best 3 defensive players gone. They weren't even that damn good on defense. They weren't even that damn good. So many things have to, and you have to hope that these portal guys or young dudes, freshmen, redshirt freshmen, are going to step up and be at least what you got out of those guys on offense, and that he meshes with them. How the fuck does that happen? I mean, and it's just assumed that it's going to happen too. That's the thing.
Tell me this, Jason. If OU has the season Alabama had last year, this coming season. So remember how Alabama did last year. If they have that season this coming year, is that a success?
Oh, yeah.
Would you say that
11-2?
Would you say that Alabama had a good defense?
Alabama had a what? Say that again.
Good defense?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think they had upper marginal quarterback play?
I don't know that it was upper, but I think it was. It was bad. It was good at times. It was good at times.
All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good at times. They had.
Yeah,
they had upper marginal quarterback play. Right.
I think he's talented. I didn't really like what they were doing, but I think he's talented.
Did they have young, talented, unproven, inexperienced, but mid-tier offensive line?
Yeah, that was a work in progress all year, right?
Okay, so they all that. Would you say that they had really good skill positions?
They had good skill positions, yeah. Not as good as Texas.
So, no. But where I'm going with this one is we are going to have a very good defense. Okay, right? We are going to have a quarterback who we believe will be upper marginal.
I think he's better than that. But yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
As a freshman, let's go. So if I think he'll have a better year than Jalen Milroe had. Right. So you got that. We have a young, inexperienced, but we've got a lot of talent on the offensive line. Right?
Yeah, and they're going up against a lot of talent day after day. They're going to get better.
Yes. Okay, so there's that. Our skill positions are mountains and light years ahead of what Alabama had last year. So I think that we can have that type of season just based off of that. Like, you can play around some of the bad offensive line play. If you pull in a center who gives us, somebody compared the Hickman kid out of SMU to Eric Wren. And if you had Eric Wren at center right now, that's essentially what Troy Everett was going to be. Was Eric Wren. Maybe who was the Eric Wren? Who was the oh goodness gracious? He was a white kid, played center, maybe a walk-on 2 or 3 years ago. I cannot remember the dadgum guy's name, but anyway, he played center. Somebody will help out. Eventually, I think so. Eventually, Rain took over for him. Anyway, I digress. It'll pop up in my head in a second, but I think that we can have that we have that ability. Alabama had an absolute shit offensive line last year. I think that we can put together that or better, and our skill positions are there, and then our defense is extremely experienced and extremely talented and deep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you pull
number one returning production defense, but it also added so much talent to it that some of that production may not play.
It's
you know what I mean? It's that good that it's the guys that they're, your red shirt guys, your red shirt freshmen and your sophomores that are true sophomores, whatever. Your Peyton Bowens that, was on the field some, but not all the time. He looks different. PJ Adebawari gets that like to click on, watch out,
Well,
because then Ethan Downs probably either has to move in or move the hell out.
And I want to address Sooner in Texas. If you don't think that Oklahoma has talent on the offensive line, you're misinformed. Oklahoma has talent. Oklahoma has no experience. You got Jacob Sexton, who I don't even think has a full season, and he's your leader in the clubhouse. You've got Fabici, who has a year, and then you've got Jake Taylor, who played several snaps. But then now you're trying to slide in, somebody new at that point.
It's just unexperienced. That doesn't mean they're not. And the depth isn't bad either.
Eugene Brooks has a chance to be this year's Caden Green. Eugene Brooks was manhandling 5-star defensive linemen up and down in the All-American camps. You've got EPL, who still is going to be here in July. EPL could be a freaking large tight end. He is so athletic. And you think of the most athletic offensive linemen that have came out of Oklahoma. You got to throw in Trent Williams. You got to throw in Lane Johnson. Gabe Eichert had some injury issues, but he had those capabilities. But Creed Humphrey, those guys all were extremely athletic guys. And I think that's what EPL has that in his future. Not to mention Akinkumi and Iasosa. I mean, there's so much, talent there. We just don't have any snaps. And so if you can bring in somebody who has, but we need snaps, because right now Jacob Sexton is kind of the blind leading the blind. You hear of Billy Bowman coaching the defensive backs, and they had to slide Sexton inside to guard so that he could work with Bates, because Sexton knows the offense. Nobody else does. So you got to put that guy right next to him, and then put Tarquin on the outside. So yeah, I'm just saying, I don't want to ride into battle with a bunch of true freshmen. I think that we are getting 2 to 3 offensive tackles.
Would want to, but I also don't think, the one thing I would say, Sooner in Texas, you got to remember this too, that this isn't just happening in Norman. There's a lot of people that look. Alabama was questionable. They had a bunch of freshmen or a bunch of guys that hadn't been really in the game yet. By the end of it, they were pretty good. But look, when you got to look at the size of these kids. 305 is Troy Everett. Waywoo's 326. 334 is Eugene Brooks. This is a freaking freshman, 334. Spencer Brown, 314. 307 for Kenneth Wormy. I didn't even know that he was on the freaking roster. Joshua Bates, 311. These guys are all big enough. And look, the bottom line I'm going to tell you is this. There's no way you can tell me that if these kids continue to go through the summer working together, and they're going to continue to go up against this defensive juggernaut of a front seven that they're going to have to deal with day in and day out, that it's not going to make them better going into it. They're going to be underrated until they're not. They're going to, and the other thing about that I would say is this is probably a good thing for Jackson Arnold, because if you can't get comfortable in the pocket right this second, it makes you get better outside the pocket, move the pocket, do this, do that. He's going to get looks that you wouldn't get in a normal practice situation, just because it's that competitive around there. The best teams are ultra competitive all day long with each other and everybody else. That's just how it is.
And listen, I do believe that we are getting at least 2 offensive linemen in this transfer portal, and I think that they're going to have experience. And so if you get Hickman to commit, and there's a couple other names that are flowing out there, but if you get a couple of guys, all of a sudden you got a little depth in that's not about. No, you do not want to go with 10 of your 2 deep. You don't want, hell, you don't have any experience. There's none on the roster. There's 0 experience. That's why we need some transfers. So I think that you allow these freshmen to continue to fight each other for the opportunity to roll in and to filter in. And I think that the early season for the Sooners allows the ramp up time. And also, Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the best offensive line coaches in the country.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And look, I would tell you that, where there's definitely, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a major strength at the moment, but I don't think it's going to be terrible at the end of it. Again, when you go up against these guys day after day after day, and you either get better or you get out. And I think they're going to get better. And again, you got to remember that one-on-ones doesn't really equate to anything in the practice situation on one-on-ones. That doesn't really mean a lot because offensive line works as a unit. It gets judged as a unit too.
Yeah.
That I believe that they're going to figure out. And because of the fact that, look, that what they're wanting to do, and I've heard this often. I think I heard you saying it yesterday, that they're trying to throw some tough things at Jackson. They're trying to throw tough things at this line too to get them back. You have to be battle tested. You have, yeah. Oh, is he just, yeah. Okay. Bottom line is, yes, there's some tough games. Every one of these games, you know what? I was listening to, and I shouldn't listen to it as much, but the SEC podcast, and they had Billy Lucci on there, and he was talking about week after week and blah, 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 just the athletes and all that stuff, right? And I get it. The good news is that you had a couple of years to prep for it and get those guys. And thank God that Lincoln Riley left. Thank God he left. I know everybody wants to, he's a scumbag. He was slimy for the way he left, and he took Caleb Williams with, and I'm going to tell you, they weren't going to win. Maybe they win the Natty last year with Caleb, but the truth is, they were never going to be in the position. They wouldn't have won the Natty with Caleb and Lincoln last year. They might have won it if Caleb stayed, but they were never going to have the defense. It was good. You were going to go in and be what people are talking about. That Oklahoma's going to be the Nebraska of the SEC. That's what was going to happen with Lincoln. And that's why he left.
And
he knew.
And I think
coaches know, man. They know what they are.
I think that he would have.
Not that guy. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that they had a little fool's gold to come in their way, so it would have just sustained the madness. Because there were really good defensive linemen on the boards like Gabe Dindy, and I believe at the time Marvin Jones was a top defensive end. Now I don't think that he's really showing out. But Oklahoma was leading for these guys. So now you have some of these 5-star types coming up on defense. And I think that we just mired in the same stuff that we saw. I think that, it's just going to be more of the same. I think that I think even with Caleb Williams, I think that Oklahoma, it just switched the jersey with USC 2 years ago. It'd have been the same thing. Right. And then last year, USC.
If he decided to stay with Venables and look, and I'm grateful for Dylan Gabriel, but he's not Caleb Williams, and he's not either of the guys coming in now, right? He's not Jackson, and he's definitely not going to be what I think Hawkins is going to be. In the end, what I would say is, they had a shot, but the truth is that with Lincoln, they were never going to be ready for the SEC, and you could have been so far behind that you become Mizzou. And I'm still going to tell you, Mizzou ain't shit, guys. They're not. They have 2 really good receivers, one really good one and a good one, and then they have what? A shit talking coach and a crap schedule. Oh, you're going to roll their ass when they get there. Roll them for all that shit that's been being talked out of there. Roll them. And I wouldn't doubt it. I think the hardest games are going to be Alabama and LSU, and then of course Texas. But only because of the rivalry part. I think that Oklahoma is better than Texas in every way right now. In every way.
But it's the rivalry. It's just like this past year.
I know. But if you could have look, the defense just got better, and Quinn was in his head way early. First pass picked.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just, with Missouri, you're gonna take care of your own. You absolutely are gonna take care of your own, and so the Caden Green stuff, I don't think that they'll have anything. I mean, they'll take it out on the field. They will, and they'll go out and they will have a purpose. And you cannot tell me that everybody on the team doesn't have a little like, let's go show him that he made the wrong choice. And then they also can tap in for Nweri, who I still think, again, I saw him four times. I saw him 4 times. And
if it wasn't for his mother, he's an Oklahoma fan. He's an Oklahoma player. It didn't have shit to do with him.
But the more I saw him, the more I was worried about how much he liked the game. Now, it always looked like he was tired. And talk to anybody who's seen it, who went and saw him multiple times. That's not a sour grapes. I'm extremely happy for Kamori. I'm very excited to get him on campus.
Absolutely,
he's going to be part of this next class, and
he's underrated.
He was the defense.
It's exactly. He's way underrated too, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. So it's. But I think that you're going to go out there, and it's going to be, again, major things here. Is I think that we have running backs that we can run the ball with, and if you have to lean on the run in your defense, guess where we're going to go play? We're going to go play in the SEC. And they've lightened up a little bit more into doing spread, because more teams have gone to spread, and so they're not going to have the linebacker core like they had 8 years ago or 10 years ago. They're thinner, they're faster linebackers nowadays, and so now they're still bigger than what we were going to see against Kansas. But I'm just saying, you're going to see so much talent out there, and we talked about this. I fully believe that Nick Anderson has the chance to be a first or second day draft pick, but Deion Burks, I'm calling it right now, he will be a first round draft pick at wide receiver.
Yeah,
he will be a first round draft.
Okay, so you're gonna have to. I was watching you with Sooner Legend, and if you guys are not already subscribers to the Sooner Legends podcast, you should get over there and subscribe to that one. They had a great show yesterday, but I have to a bone to pick with you about that whole. They're going to be top 10 on defense, and they're going to be maybe 50 to 60 on offense. I think you're crazy on that one, bro.
Okay,
that hadn't happened since Bob Stoops showed up to town, and can you imagine? I picture Seth Luttrell sitting at his mom's house lamenting how he didn't get treated as well as Jeff Lebby by the fan base if they are in the top 50 or 60.
Okay, I want to see something, just because I don't think it's as bad as you think it is. Because I think that there's excellent offenses,
bro,
and I think
they hated Jeff Lebby. So,
but we also, I don't think the offensive coordinator is going to have the noose. I think it's Beanball. I think that if nothing happens with the offensive line, it's not going to be Seth Luttrell and it's not going to be Joe John Finley that people are going to be bringing out the pitchforks for. It's going to be Beanball. People are going to unleash on him. But here's what I believe too. I think that, and you have to check I believe it was Gabe Eicher that was talking about this on the Oklahoma Breakdown, is for the offensive linemen, when you're running RPO, it's hard it's not so cut and dry on blocking assignment, because again, how many times did we get called for a little man downfield?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you've got wanderers all the time, and so they're always freaked out about that. And that was one of Savion Byrd's biggest issues, is he just kept on floating around, and so he just kept on doing that kind of stuff. So
in his head about it.
And we are not going to. And so when you have that, you also can't rotate out receivers because you're trying to run the hurry up. And so what's going on? So you're running an offense that's really kind of just ambiguous for the offensive lineman and not cut and dry. And then you're also not switching out receivers. So I think that now with this more West Coast Mike Leach style air raid offense that it leans a little bit more that way, you're going to see more receivers out there. You're going to see a 3 tight end. You're going to a 3 receiver, 1 tight end. You're going to see a 4 wide. And I do believe that. And I also think
type of sets as well, where you're gonna see them utilize that tight end in a lot of different ways. Which the one thing that I miss about Lincoln Riley was that downhill running, use of an H back. Look, when he's doing it right, he does it very well. The problem is
he's a great offensive coordinator.
I don't have a problem backing off of some points a little bit, or maybe, sacrificing being the number one offense in the country. I don't have a problem with that. If you're putting up enough to win and you're, running the clock and doing it because you're trying to play more complimentary. But you need to be able to score when you need to score, period. And I think they're going to do that. I think that the weapons are, look, so many times that we saw last year that as good as that offense was number-wise, and they were, look, if Dylan was a second late or half a second late, the ball was coming up short, man. It was pick city, and it would be pick city in the SEC. City in the SEC. No doubt. The one thing that the only thing I hope for Jackson Arnold is that they get him to get the ball out. That was his problem in the bowl game, that he was late on a couple of throws, and he felt like he could use his muscle to do that, right? To fit one in there. You're definitely not going to. If you couldn't do it against Arizona, you're not going to do it in the SEC against the real good defenses. But I don't know how many of those real good defenses Oklahoma's going up against this year. They may be going up against teams that everybody expects to be really good. How many of these defenses are going to be that good, though? Alabama is definitely not what it was on defense last year.
No.
Tennessee is going to be a good defense. They are a good defense. They were good. They probably got better. LSU, you got to get a lot better because they were trash. They probably will. But it's got to be
step back on offense.
Maybe
they lose, but they're losing.
Always got guys on offense. I watched that spring game. Nussmeier looked good. He can throw it, but he is prone to try to fit them in there too. Do that against Oklahoma defense. That ain't happening.
But that's what I'm saying is like, I think that LSU is going to take a massive. You can't lose Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels and not take a step back. So, they lost 3 games with those 2 guys. So, that's a top 10 draft pick, and that's 2 top 10 draft picks.
No, I agree with you, but come on, man. Every year there's a kid that we didn't know who the hell he was. Trots out there at receiver and lights it up over there. That's just who they are at LSU. That I'm not overlooking LSU at all.
I'm not saying that they're going to be shit on offense. I'm just saying that they're going to take a step back from last year. And
but if their defense takes a step forward, which it looks like they should, at least a small. They can't be as bad as they were a year ago. Neilio, thanks for the super chat. Good evening, Jason, and everyone watching. Hoping everyone's having a nice Thursday. We are. Thank you for joining us. We're talking a little smack, but I think that they're going to be better on defense than they were a year ago. I'm not saying that they're not going to be Oklahoma on defense, but I don't think you.
It still sounds so foreign. It still sounds so foreign.
People are like, who the fuck is talking about?
I really have a feeling like, and I'm dead serious with the things that I believe are going to come true with this transfer portal. I think that this defense is going to take a step from your solid defensive line play away from being borderline elite to, I think this defense is going to be elite. And so I saw somebody put top 5.
Oklahoma's defense is absolutely going to be elite.
Somebody said top 5 SEC. If the offense just doesn't piss down their leg, if our offense is a top 30 offense, is that a better than 50?
I've been saying that. I think if they're in the top 20, they're in the top 20, you only have to be in the top 20 or 30 on offense too.
So in 2022, we were 13. So not last year, but the year before. So if we get that, or, just right around that from the offense, I mean, you got to think we're going to have shorter scoring drives. So if you get anything from the special teams, like we're going to start making field goals. So, I mean, you're going to get shorter drives. This defense can score. I personally believe that, like, when you're playing the the Nico, the Nussman, all these younger quarterbacks, Quinn Ewers, there's not a quarterback in the SEC that I'm like, I'm kind of worried about that one.
Not that you got to play, not unless you get Georgia in the championship game, then you got to worry a little bit about. I think Carson's good.
I think he's good, but I mean, like, at that point, I'm more worried about the team in general than the quarterback. Like, I don't like. There's not
just the way that
there's not a Bryce Young.
Absolutely,
there's not a Bryce Young. There's not a Jaden Daniels. I mean, you ask the most, the common fan has no clue who Missouri's quarterback is.
He's not good. It's not that good.
No.
Look, Ohio State played mostly second and third string guys in the freaking Cotton Bowl and a third string quarterback after the first quarter, and they were losing. Mizzou was losing 3-0 in the fourth quarter before they got those 2 touchdowns late. They were not, as much as I saw Mizzou last year, they did that shit with smoke and mirrors. K-State, they needed a 60-yarder at the buzzer to beat them.
Yeah, I watched it.
LSU couldn't play defense to save their ass. They get them at home, and they get beat in a shootout. I don't buy Mizzou, and drink is full of shit, man. Come on. I'm so over them. I'm not worried about it at all.
I'm not. I listen. I don't believe, and I'm still saying this. I'm still saying that if we get Hickman to come in and you get one other offensive lineman, preferably a tackle, you get that. Why we need that is not because we don't have anything. It's because we need some depth and we need any type of experience we can take.
And more competition doesn't hurt anything either. I mean, because right now you were talking about this yesterday about how you've got, Sexton moving to guard some, and and maybe it's to help coach up some of these other guys or whatever on that side of the ball, whatever it is. You hope that you get to put him at tackle because that's probably where he's going to be best. But if you get a tackle that can handle their business out there, then move him in and it's fine. Because
listen, Jacob Sexton.
I don't really care I don't care who the names are. I want them to be the guys that work the best together. I don't care.
It's the 5. It's the 5. It is absolutely the 5. And it was Robert Conjol is the center that I was thinking about earlier. Because even a Robert Conjol would be terrific right now. He was the one that he kept on switching in and out. And when Rain was hurt, he was on the team. So anyway, but Bates, you got to realize that, like, sometimes the only way to get better at football is to play football. And he wasn't doing a lot of that. You don't get a lot as the third team center, as a true freshman. And so, I think that all this practice, these are 15 practices, and then he's going to be working his tail off all year long, all summer long. If Josh Bates shows up and he does not have a handle on that job, there is nobody else in the world that he can look at. And because I think Jacob Sexton as a left tackle, a lot of people inside the program, he is the next guy. He's the next guy to go. Well, I think that Fabici is starting to make a case that he might be the best offensive lineman on the team. So we've got 2 extremely solid pieces. We got 2 extremely. If you add in a center who is just extremely capable. And then you've got Jake Taylor who can play right tackle. You've got the Simmons kid and then you've got Tarquin. I mean, I think that we got good. We just need maybe
we
two
need
more.
Florida Tarquin, right? Like you said,
we need Florida Tarquin.
Yeah. Look, I love this. Emilio saying that. Yeah, Howard pissed down his leg, and he did that a lot last year. He was hearing the footsteps from the kid way early from Avery Johnson. It seemed like he heard him from day one because that was bad. He had bad performances. If he ends up as Ohio State's quarterback, I think that they're going to end up firing Ryan Day because I just don't. He's going to beat a lot of teams, and then he's going to lose when he has to.
You know how Trevor Knight had just like an out-of-body experience against Alabama? That's what Will Howard had 2 years ago at Kansas State. He wasn't that before there, and then he went off, and then he was not that again last year. Like he was who was it? Was it Denny Green? They are who we thought they were. Like everybody saw the real Will Howard last year.
Hey, Sooner Texas
sweeps.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? I might have just been a year early on Okie Light. So they no way they go to the Big 12 championship game.
Listen to this, Jason. I kid you not. I kid you not. And guys, I know what I'm wearing on my head, and I know what team we're talking about here. So the other day, I'm trying to explain why how OU is going to a new conference to my 8-year-old daughter. And if you see my new Twitter handle, you can go see back of her head ordering some Brahms today because people coming into town. So I knew that to get the Brahms.
I followed you, but you haven't even followed me, so I don't know. I'll see if I can find it.
I did too.
Oh, okay.
I try to message you, but you're bougie and you got your messages turned off.
I do.
But anyway,
what? I do not. That's silly talk.
So anyway. She's asking me, she said, so what's happening? And I'm telling her, and she's like, well, who was in our conference? And I start naming off the conferences, and I completely just I was like, there's one more. There's freaking one more. And I'm like going through it. I went through it 3 or 4 times. And then she goes, where's Oklahoma State playing? And I'm like, oh my God. Again, like, could it be just a simple brain fart? Most likely. But I mean, that's how I literally feel.
They're so forgettable, dude. They're so forgettable. Yeah. Except that they're just loud. You know what I mean? They're like Mizzou right now. Yeah. You're not completely wrong on all that. Yeah. I'm not bougie. That's a bullshit. By the way, fucking kind of true about Will, but there's a Big 12. Hey, look. Now, I'm not saying he didn't play really good that year. Yes, he played great and
out-of-body experience, like I said.
Look, I'm going to say this about that game because, I mean, Max had an out-of-body game and got beat. I mean, he left everything on the field, his lungs, all of it, and still got beat. That was great for them. Again, though, when you went up against. But what happened against Alabama? He looked awful. And then
I want to say this too. Like, I'm just so with Will Howard. If Will Howard played this year, not even just up to the capabilities like he played 2 years ago, if he played similar to 2 years ago, he'd be in the NFL draft right now.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be at Ohio State.
True.
He went to Ohio State because he can make the same amount he's going to make.
He either had to go to SC or he had to go there. There was no 2 ways around it.
But that's what I'm saying. He's in college like Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel's not in college because he is in college because he can make more money in NIL than he can as a 6th round draft pick or an unrestricted free agent.
And he is an unrestricted free agent that kicks around the league for a long time, probably if he wants to. But because he's smart, heady, all that. I mean, we love Dylan Gabriel. He just, athletically speaking, he ain't that dude. He ain't. I mean, you think about what, I mean, you guys know I love Dylan Gabriel. I love Dylan Gabriel. I respect everything. He's the guy that OU needed then, right away. For what was left, they needed him.
Yes.
But moving forward, And could I see? I mean, would it have bothered me if he'd have hung around another year, first year going into the SEC? No, but it may have stunted Jackson's growth, and that wouldn't have been good. Right? That wouldn't have been good. And if he stays at Oklahoma and he doesn't play well in the SEC, he's probably screwing himself even worse out of the NFL. He made the right move on his part, number one. But the truth of it is Jackson needs whatever happens this season for Oklahoma, whether they make the playoff, don't make the playoff at 9-3, they miss it or whatever, which I think is probably 8-4 being the absolute floor. But I think that even if that happens, it's what you need for Jackson. He needs to go out there and have to work his way through it, because 2025 is the year that they really should do it. But he can make throws that could turn it into a situation where you might be going for a couple in a row.
Jason, I'm just saying that, Jason, the Nick Anderson touchdown against Tulsa tells you just go watch any Dylan Gabriel highlight on a deep ball, and then just go watch that one Jackson Arnold throw. Dylan Gabriel doesn't have the capabilities to do that. He doesn't. My buddy just got done running the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
Even if I cared enough or wanted enough to go do it, I physically cannot go do. I'm not walking that damn marathon.
No, there's runners.
I just not.
There's runners and there's freaks with 3 lungs. I got.
And so, but I'm saying with DG, like, he cannot do those things. And so, I think so. The conversation that has been tossed around was, you're welcome to come back, but it is not your job. It is an open competition. And if Jackson wins, we would like for you to be behind him. And so you take that as your backup.
I mean, I don't blame him for not doing that shit either.
Oh, yeah. Now, because all of a sudden he's not making the NIL. He doesn't have any NIL prowess as the backup. None. I mean, he may have some stuff from like the roots back home or whatever.
Yeah, he definitely made more money going to Oregon.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean, he's and listen, I love Dylan Gabriel.
He's going to be in a situation there because I like their coordinator. It's going to work out great for him.
Jason, Dylan Gabriel, I think, is the Hawaiian Tim Tebow. Like, he is a phenomenal human being. He is absolutely phenomenal human being. Absolutely. But as an Oklahoma football fan and content creator and someone who gives my opinion, and people listen to me for some god uncle knows reason, but it's different. It's different. Like Paul Thompson, everybody loves Paul Thompson. Paul Thompson was a stopgap like Dylan Gabriel was.
He was.
But Paul Thompson did not.
I love Paul Thompson. Big fan.
He didn't have the tools that Landry had. He didn't have the tools that Sam had. He didn't have the tools that Baker, Kyler, or Spencer Rattler had. Like, he didn't have any of those tools.
Correct.
And so it's not that. So I just
he was again. I'm going to go back to what I said. He was what Oklahoma needed for when they got him. Yeah. He was the right guy at the time. If you weren't going to get to keep Caleb Williams, which you weren't. If you weren't going to keep Caleb Williams, you needed this guy. You didn't need anybody else. You didn't want Jackson Dart. You needed Dylan Gabriel. And Jackson Dart is almost definitely more athletic than Dylan Gabriel too. But he doesn't. What has he done? He hasn't won a big game. The LSU game.
That doesn't matter. The Jackson Dart winning part, that doesn't even matter, because Dylan Gabriel probably did as much as holding the fan base together after year one than anybody else. Like, and I'll tell you, if Jackson Dart comes here and shit goes sideways fast and we end up with a 4-8 type of a season, this is a very different conversation today.
I think so too.
We're going in the SEC talking about how dominant in softball we're going to be. And that's shaky right now.
Look, I think that the things that have happened has been DG is a winner. Where nobody's saying that he's not a winner. He's an absolute winner. I think, again, I'll say this again. He was the guy that Oklahoma needed then. when he came. He made the right decision for himself. He's in a better situation going to Oregon. He's probably not athletically where he would have to be, because you can't, and to never, Dylan's athletic ability would mean that he can't make a mistake on timing or anything else, or he's in deep shit in this league. In the Big Ten, there's only a couple of those teams like that. And they're going to be good. They're going to be good. But what Jackson can do is on another planet than what we're talking about. We're not even talking about the same game anymore. Same with Michael Hawkins.
And
Casey Thompson has a better arm. I'm sorry, he does. And I did not want Casey to even come. That wasn't my plan. But I'll say that I'm glad he's there. But I don't see him really playing. The bottom line is you got to have a guy with some gifts. You got to be another person, man. Just like I'm telling you right now, Jeff Levy does not have his quarterback. That kid from Baylor, no, he ain't the guy.
No,
that is
no. He is JT Daniels again. I think that is another JT Daniels. He is going to bounce around, and
they should bounce his ass out of there right now. He's not the guy. I can't believe they brought him in there. What the hell?
No.
They should be backing up the Brinks truck to Jaden Rashada right now. Not that if Georgia's on him, it ain't gonna matter. But
I have hard if that ends up happening, that will be very surprising to me. Him to Georgia, like a Rashada. Like at this point, I don't see how any. I mean that you've got to be very, very confident of the culture in your locker room. And right now, I don't know if Georgia needs to be rolling the dice anything culturally, because I mean that the speeding stuff isn't stopping. And
nobody really talks about all the drunk driving that was going on during that first thing, where the two people got killed.
Hey, listen, glass houses, people in glass houses sink ships, whatever the saying is. But I'm just
say they're not going to do anything to ETN about it. I don't care how long he's been there. Something that y'all better knock that shit off. What are y'all doing?
I think I saw. I mean, we're in double digits now since the guy died. Since the player.
Yeah, the
was
player
in the car that killed
the assistant or the DA, whatever he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
look, guys, find another hobby. I know it's boring as shit out there in the sticks in Athens. I get it. Find something else to do.
Go fishing. I mean, I don't know. Go throw dynamite in a pond. Do dynamite fishing. That's fun. Of course, I guess if they mess up that one,
like they have at Oklahoma or whatever, the street outlaws, whatever, they got to, right?
I don't know. You're going to have a bunch of Georgia players with nubs instead of speeding tickets. I don't know. If I'm Kirby Smart, I just give them a bag of gummy worms and tell them still try to not hurt themselves or get in trouble.
Well, there it is. Yeah, do some of that. Yeah, less drinking, more weed. I'm with you. All right, we kind of went off the rails here. Guys, we appreciate it.
Talk about.
We were talking about SEC not eating its own, but we're eating our own. So here we are. The end, I think that we made that point, though. I don't want to keep kicking that, I think it's clear to me that where this is headed, that rule only makes me believe more that the SEC and Big Ten are looking to destroy the other conferences. They don't care about them. They only care about their conferences being on top and getting the most money, and that's fine. I mean, look, I don't know. I've said this a bunch of times. I don't love the direction that the entirety of college football is going in, but it's the truth. You can see what's happening here, and I think that if the Big 12 or the ACC, in the ACC, I don't think that it even matters if they do. If you don't get to a semifinal or better in these first 2 years, you're going to fall so far behind it won't matter. Because the money is just going to keep pushing people that way, and the winning and the, you know, the number of draft picks coming out of those two leagues, it's just going to keep going that way. If they're not going to go to this super league thing that they were talking about on the Athletic last week,
Yeah.
and they're not, because even the Big 12 said no to it. Dumb. Why?
Listen,
they think whatever reason they think they got to keep caving. I think it was the wrong direction to go in. I think you fight and, you know, call their bluff and see what happens. But that's just my opinion. The bottom line is that this is all not pointing in the direction that fans of the Big 12 or the ACC should like.
Yeah. And listen, at some point, I mean, I don't see how you watch what happened to the Pac-12 and go, that shit will never happen again. Like, listen, ACC and Big 12, you saw the blueprint. This is like Matrix. What's the newest Matrix movie? It was like the same thing as the first one, just not as good.
Yeah,
like, it's the same thing. Like, if you stick around, you're going to let the Big 10 and SEC dictate what's going on. So, listen, little feller, you need to come sit on daddy's lap and just buckle up.
The money, look, you got to spend the money right now until the rules are in place. It will change in 2 years. Hey, you know what? What isn't going to change is the television contracts are still going to heavily favor the SEC and the Big 10. And the college football playoff revenue is going to heavily favor the SEC, the Big 10, and Notre Dame. That's how it is. That's not changing.
And you know what? I fully believe that something like this has the opportunity to happen. Is one of these people are going to get extremely desperate if they try to hold out, and then they're going to end up signing a streaming deal with an Apple or something like that. It's not going to be able to deliver because none of those have at this point. Like the Bally Sports thing,
all the streaming is all going together now.
No, that's what I'm saying is somebody's going to take a risk to do that, and they're going, and all of a sudden that conference is going to be, I mean, you say relegated, that could do a lot more than damage, because all of a sudden you can't pay the schools out the TV money. Like right. you may have yourself, whatever the insurance policy is, if all schools in your conference sued you, you better have that one.
Well, the ACC's over there bitching about their revenue distribution, and their last commissioner was freaking sell off time on in second level, not even in like, it wasn't necessarily the top tier, but they were selling off good enough, you know, good content to some half-assed regional network. Like, it'd be great if it was the CW. It wasn't. It's some crap network because his son was one of the guys running it. I mean, it's been mismanaged, and I mean, look, it's almost as bad as the Pac-12 was. It, totally mismanaged, just stupid. And you know,
it's,
and I
listen,
Lemon. Go ahead.
Lemon just right there. Sorry, Jason, I just 100% cut you off. It's not going to be Apple TV or Netflix. I mean, what it's going to be is like Paramount Plus or something like that. That is looking for
ESPN actually went in with Turner and Fox, and they have this big conglomerate that the college thing is. It's all going to be there. Even though they're competitors, it's all going to be there.
I still think that there's the infrastructure piece of something that large. I think has it's not going to be as fast as some people think. Because I think that's why a lot of people are too terrified to really just, it's not that they don't believe in pulling the cord. It's just, it's more confusing of like, hey, did you see that new show? What is it? Oh, it's Yellowstone. Is it on Hulu or is it on YouTube TV? Oh, it's on Paramount. Well, shit, I don't have Paramount. And then so all of a sudden you're like, no, and now there's businesses. So
was this Confucius that said this, Neilio? I don't disagree with you. I said this as we started this. I'm not telling you that this is what I like, and I don't want to be right about this. But I don't. You're correct here. You are absolutely correct that there's something that's going to go bad here. But how bad? Because if what they do is turn this into a 45 team 50, 60 team and you can stay in there, that's all well and good. But you see where this is headed. They're pushing the non-money out, and the kids, they can get paid. How are they going to get paid the most? Are they going to get paid the most in the Big 12? I mean, look, Fitz was talking about this on, I mean, I've been watching everybody. It's clear what's happening, guys. I just think that I hate it the way it is, but I do think that this is the way it is. And it's, it sucks that you're losing all these traditional rivalries. I mean, come on. That's the stupid part. It's stupid. But oh, okay, we're off the rails. Guys, thanks so much for joining us for this show. I don't know that I think that we've said what we needed to say. I believe that it's going to be a lot of fun for Oklahoma fans and for Texas fans, except not so much for Texas fans because they're going to get drug around. I think A&M beats them. That was the point I was trying to make earlier. I think they finish ahead of them probably this year. They've got pretty much the same schedule. Why not? I mean, I think they're going to be one of those teams that beats the shit out of Mizzou. I'm just sure of it. But because I think Elko's a better coach too, is the other part. But again, if you guys love the content, make sure you hit the like button. We've had over 300 people in here at some points. So jump in, hit the like button. Make sure you get over to Unfair Sports. Coop and Jay are putting out amazing content day after day after day all the time. Again, jump on to the Sooner Legend podcast. He's killing it every day as well. Love having Mike around too. We're going to get together with him here in the next couple of days for sure. But anything else you want to go out on there, Coop?
No, I think that's good. It looks like with the game moving to 2:30 and the weather, I'd say if you're going to go, long sleeve it up and bring a rain jacket. And I think Confucius said, "Man who drink more beer feel warm longer." I don't know. Maybe it's more something like that.
Man with hole in pocket feel cocky all day. Love it.
Yep.
I don't know what just happened. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for coming in. We love you guys. Make sure you hit that like button. We'll see you on the next one.